Tunis, March 3, 1943. I am Oberfeldwebel Hans Meissner, Logistics Officer, Nachschubabteilung 200 Afrika Korps. The temperature climbed above 45 degrees Celsius. On the dock, we wrestled with ammunition crates weighing more than 200 pounds, dragging them out of ships' holds with ropes and broken planks. That's how we did it, with discipline, order, and the raw strength of German soldiers. We had no cranes, no machines, just pride. Across the sea, the Americans were said to use machines, forklifts, they called them. We laughed, because in the Wehrmacht, no man needed a machine to prove his strength. I didn't know it then, but somewhere beyond that horizon, that little machine was already changing the war. While we bled for every crate, they were lifting entire armies. This is the story of how we lost a war to a forklift. We had won before in Poland, in France, in Greece. Blitzkrieg was proof of our genius. Speed, precision, willpower, that was our creed. We were the sharpest blade in Europe's hand. In the desert, we trusted our discipline and our bodies. A soldier's worth was measured by endurance, how much weight he could carry, how long he could fight without sleep. Machines? Machines were for factories, not for soldiers. Afrika Korps HQ Intelligence Brief, 1942 Recon Report. One morning, our intelligence officers brought in reports from the western ports, Americans landing in Morocco and Algeria. They said the Yanks were unloading with machines, small trucks with metal arms that lifted crates. Someone laughed. Another called it typical American softness. Even the general smiled and said, "A convoy to Malta? Let them play with their toys." That was the first time I heard the word forklift, and like everyone else, I dismissed it. After all, we were Germans. We didn't need help from machines to win a war. I believed it too, until I saw the opposite. While Hans and his comrades were sweating under the African sun, on the other side of the Atlantic, another kind of army was at work. Engineers, factory men, inventors. In 1917, the Clark Equipment Company in Buchanan, Michigan, built the world's first motorized materials tractor, the truck tractor. It was born from wartime necessity. With factory labor short during World War I, machines had to do what men could not. 2 years later came the TrueClift, adding hydraulic lift to the design, the first step toward vertical handling. By 1924, Clark engineers added forks and a vertical mast. For the first time, a machine could not only carry, but lift. The modern forklift was born. Soon, other American pioneers followed Yale with the first battery-powered lift truck in 1920. Tow Motor in Cleveland, Baker and Hister refining the design for military and lumber industries. Together, they defined the DNA of every forklift ever built. Forklifts are an American child of wartime shortages, machines built not for glory, but to save human effort. Kasserine Pass captured U.S. Depot, February 1943. After Kasserine, we thought we'd captured treasure food, ammunition, equipment. But what I found that day was not gold or weapons. It was something smaller, stranger. It was like walking into a warehouse built by engineers, not soldiers. 3-meter lanes, labels, numbers, order, everything in its place. Was ist das? Ein kleiner Panzer? Nein. It has forks. One of the men turned the key. The engine hummed, not roared. Then the steel arms lifted a crate that had broken our backs hours before. I felt something strange, a mix of awe and shame. For months, we laughed at machines like this. Now it lifted what 12 of us could barely move. In the desert, we worshipped endurance. But these men, they worshipped efficiency. What we called luxury was logic. That day, a simple machine lifted more than a crate. It lifted a truth I had been too proud to see. Let's put what Hans saw into numbers. At an American supply depot, one soldier operating a forklift could unload a truck in 15 minutes. A German team of 12 men needed over an hour to do the same job. That meant more than speed, it meant stamina. American logistics ran 24 hours a day, in shifts. German soldiers, hauling crates in 120-degree heat, could only last a few hours before collapse. Every minute saved unloading meant more fuel, more ammo, more rations moving forward, and fewer men lost to exhaustion. American industry produced more. 297,000 aircraft, 86,000 tanks, 2 million trucks, but production alone didn't win battles. It was movement that mattered. moving supplies faster, longer, smarter. Tobruk port bottleneck, 20,000 tons per month versus 100,000 needed. Tobruk was our throat and it was choking. Every crate, every shell, every drop of fuel had to pass through hands, not machines. We worked day and night, but the ship stayed. 2 days, 3, sometimes 5 just to empty one vessel. At Medellin, Rommel wanted to strike first, but our guns fell silent not from fear, but from emptiness. The shells were still at the port. We simply couldn't move them. In Berlin, they told us, organize better, work harder, believe more. But we didn't need speeches. We needed machines. The desert took everything: water, strength, pride. A single heat casualty meant 20% less work. By sunset, half the platoon was down. We were fighting the 20th century, with the muscles of the 19th. When Rommel withdrew into Tunisia, we left behind mountains of supplies. Guns, food, fuel, everything we had carried on our backs, now buried in the sand. We didn't lack courage. We lacked the strength to keep lifting. They said America was chaos. But when our ship docked in Norfolk, I saw order on a scale we never imagined. They unloaded an entire ship in hours. The same task took us days. No shouting, no whips, only motion smooth, constant, tireless. At Camp Shelby, Mississippi, they put us to work. They let me watch first, then learn. It took one day to understand what we had missed. It wasn't just a machine, it was a teacher. It taught patience, balance, rhythm. Goebbels told us these men were inferior. Yet I watched one operate this machine with grace I'd never seen. He didn't need to prove his worth. The machine already did it for him. A machine doesn't care who you are, only how well you operate it. By 1943, America had turned forklift production into an industry of its own. Clark and Towmotor delivered thousands of units for the Army and Navy, each one multiplying manpower tenfold. In enclosed warehouses and ship holds, electric forklifts ran for an entire shift on a single charge. No refueling, no fumes, no rest. But the secret wasn't just the machine, it was the system around it. Standard pallets, planned warehouse layouts, shift scheduling, every link engineered for mechanical flow. This was logistics as an ecosystem, not a gadget, not a trick, a system. U.S. wartime logistics system, 1942 to 1945. In an industrial war, systems beat heroes. 5 years after surrender, I found myself back in a factory. But this time, not building weapons, only rebuilding work. We called them luxuries once. Now, they were the future. Some of us had loaded shells under the desert Sunday. Now we were building the very machines that could have saved us then. We laughed about it sometimes, but quietly. By 1955, our army was reborn, the Bundeswehr. This time, every logistics unit had forklifts before rifles. Learn to lift before you learn to shoot. We once thought machines made men weaker. Now we know they make us stronger, wiser, and faster to rebuild. Museum Koblenz Clark Carloader, 1943. It sits here between legends, the Panzer that once roared, the gun that once shook the earth, and beside them, a small American machine that never fired a shot, yet helped win a world war. 80 years later, the descendants of that machine still move the world. Now they see, they think, they choose the greenest path home. When I was young, we thought strength was muscle and pride. But the Americans taught me something different, that strength can be precision, planning, and mercy. Logistics isn't glamorous, it's decisive. Never dismiss innovation because it makes work easier. That's how you win. 1917 to 1924, Clark invents the forklift. 1941 to 1945, America scales it. 1948 to the 1960s, Germany learns it. Today, the world runs on it. Innovation plus organization equals strategic advantage. Logistics isn't glamorous, it's decisive.